Erev Tov Rabotai, we are continuing with our Mishna Yomi Masechet Sheviit. We're up to Perek Chet Mishnah Gimel. Today's Mishnah should be Leilu Nishmat Neria ben Tzvedana Arenbai Menuchato Began Eden. Amen. Rabotai, we learned earlier in chapter 7, Mishnah 3, that a person is forbidden to do business with Shemitah produce except in certain cases. And the Mishnah gave an example. If a person picks produce for his own use, but he has some leftover, he can sell the leftovers. Today's Mishnah teaches us that even when Shemitah produce can be sold, it cannot be sold in the same way that other produce is sold. The Mishnah says, En mochin perot Sheviit lo b'midah v'lo b'mishkal v'lo b'minyan. We are not allowed to sell Shemitah produce by volume, by weight, or by number. For example, a person cannot sell Shemitah produce by the quart, the pound, or the dozen. Instead, he must estimate the amount that he's selling. Why? Since this is an unusual way to sell produce, it will remind the buyer that he's buying Shemitah produce, and he will remember to treat it with its unique laws. However, a person cannot simply sell the produce with different means of measure that's usually used. For example, you cannot sell figs, which are usually sold by weight, by number, or vegetables, which are usually sold by number, by weight. Rather, Shemitah produce must be sold without any measurement at all. And the Mishnah continues that along with this restriction, the way the produce is packaged for sale also has to be changed. Bet Shammai Omrim, Bet Shammai say, Af lo agutot, you are not allowed to sell Shemitah vegetables in bundles, because since vegetables are usually sold in bundles, a person must sell Shemitah vegetables unbundled. Ubet Hillel Omrim, Bet Hillel disagreed, they say, Et dako le'egod babayit ugdin oto bashuk. When it comes to vegetables that one would normally bundle even to use at home, we may bundle them and sell them bundled in the marketplace. Why? If it's a kind of produce that is not only bundled to be sold, but it's also kept in bundles for personal use, they can be sold in bundles as well. Why? Because since these vegetables are always bundled, bundling them is not a business practice that has to be changed when selling the produce. It's the way in which the vegetables are kept. Kigon, for example, hakireshin v'netzech halav. Right? Examples of such vegetables are leeks and the milky basam, which we spoke about earlier in chapter 7, Mishnah 1. That is in Rabotai Mishnah Gimel. Mishnah Dalet continues to discuss when a person buys Shemitah produce, the money that he pays for the produce takes on Shemitah's sanctity. The Mishnah is going to discuss now whether the same applies to money paid to a worker to collect Shemitah produce. And the Mishnah is going to be very specific in the cases. Ha'omer lapoel, if somebody says to his worker, Helach isar zeh, here is this isar coin for you. Ulkot li yarak hayom. Now go pick Shemitah vegetables for me today. Right? So he's paying him to pick vegetables that have grown by themselves during Shemitah. The Mishnah says, Scharo mutar, his earnings are permitted. Why? The isar coin does not have Shemitah sanctity because the money is being paid in exchange for the work and not as payment for the Shemitah produce. Because look what he said. He said, here is this isar coin for you. Now go pick Shemitah vegetables for me today. However, if somebody were to tell his worker, Likot li bo yarak hayom, pick Shemitah vegetables for me today with this isar, scharo asur, then his earnings would be forbidden. Meaning, the isur coin would have Shemitah sanctity, and the money must be used to buy food, which would then take on the Shemitah sanctity. Because by telling the worker to pick vegetables for this isar, he's implying that the isar is in exchange for vegetables and not for the labor. Therefore, the isar is money used to buy Shemitah produce and takes on the Shemitah sanctity. Now we know produce or money that has Shemitah sanctity can be used to exchange for or buy other food. But a person cannot use Shemitah produce or money to pay a debt that he owes, even if the debt was incurred by buying food. Why? The Rav explains, because Shemitah money cannot be used for business, and paying a debt is a business-like use of money. Now the Mishnah is going to discuss an interesting case. Lakach mina nachtom kikar bepundion. If somebody took a loaf of bread worth a pundion from a baker and he said, Kishelkot yarkot sadeh avilach, when I pick wild vegetables, I will bring you some. Mutar. It is permitted to give the baker these vegetables even though they are Shemitah produce. Why? Because even though a person cannot pay a debt with Shemitah produce, this customer doesn't want to pay for the bread with the vegetables. He meant to take the loaf as a gift and then bring some vegetables as a sign of appreciation. The Mefarshim explain, wild vegetables are very common and easy to find. So the baker can easily get them on his own, and he wouldn't consider them worthy enough as payment for the bread. So if he agrees to such an exchange, it's obvious that he's agreeing to give the bread for free as a gift, and the customer will bring him some vegetables to express his thanks. Since they are only giving gifts to each other, it's mutar. However, lakach mimenu stam, if he took the bread from the baker without saying anything about payment, the Mefarshim say that's understood that he's buying the bread on credit and he plans to pay the baker later. Therefore, lo yishalem lo midmei Sheviit she'en porin chov midmei Sheviit. He may not pay the baker with Shemitah money or Shemitah produce because we cannot repay a debt with Shemitah money or produce. Now, although Shemitah money and produce may be used to buy food, that's only when the money is paid at the time of the purchase. If the food is bought on credit, the money owed for the food is viewed as an ordinary debt. Now, when the customer later pays for the debt, he's simply paying an old debt, which you cannot do with Shemitah money or produce. And that is it, Rabotai, today's Mishna Yomi. Baruch Adonai Leolam. Amen v'amen.